Have you ever longed to be unshakable? To be someone impervious to criticism, rejection, loss, or betrayal? Do you dream of the day you'll finally silence that nagging inner anguish, even when you project an image of being perfectly fine? Perhaps you're exhausted from constantly striving to please everyone, from upholding an always strong facade when all you truly desire is a moment's respite from the pressure of appearing unassailable. But let me share a truth that perhaps no one has dared to utter. As long as you try to evade pain, it will continue to exert control over you. As long as you attempt to numb yourself, to hide, you will remain a captive to external circumstances, to the words that wound, the actions that disappoint, the silences that gnaw at your core. This isn't a sign of weakness, it's the reality for most people. The only distinction lies in how well some manage to feign indifference. Carl Jung, a titan in the field of depth psychology, wisely stated that we are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we choose to become. And therein lies the crucial insight. It's not about erecting a shield against the world, nor about becoming cold, indifferent, or impervious. It's about integration. It's about illuminating everything that currently afflicts you in the shadows, because true strength isn't the absence of pain, but the profound awareness of who you are, even when you're bleeding. If you've read this far, it's not by chance. This message is for you, for those weary of being wounded by everything and everyone, for those who feel perpetually at an emotional disadvantage, as if others hold an inexplicable power over them. I want to show you that it doesn't have to be this way. But to achieve this, you'll need to confront some truths that might sting. Yet, perhaps for the first time, this very pain will liberate you. Let's begin. You likely believe that the source of your hurt lies externally, in the actions of others, in poorly chosen words, in the abandonments you've endured, or in unexpected betrayals. But here's the brutal truth. None of these things truly possess the power to wound you, unless an open wound already exists within. What hurts you isn't what others inflict upon you. It's what these experiences trigger inside you. It's the narrative you construct around it, the unaddressed old trauma, the emptiness you mask with displays of strength, pride, or a desperate need to appear well-adjusted. Jung revealed that the pain we feel from the external world is merely a reflection of what remains unintegrated within our internal world. This is why some individuals can navigate devastating situations with remarkable clarity, while others crumble in the face of a simple comment. It's not about the event itself, it's about where it strikes you internally. And now for an uncomfortable truth. You continue to suffer intensely because, on some level, you still believe you can control how the world ought to treat you. You're perpetually striving to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, understanding enough, as if these qualities guarantee immunity from hurt. But control is an illusion. As long as you cling to it, you'll live in perpetual tension, attempting to predict the unpredictable and avoid the inevitable. Do you wish to cease suffering? Then stop trying to shield yourself from it. What you need isn't more control, but greater awareness. As long as you're convinced that others must change for your pain to subside, you will remain enslaved by their actions. Your freedom dawns the moment you comprehend that everything originating externally only gains power if it resonates with an echo within you. This is precisely where the real battle lies, the unconscious. What you don't perceive, don't understand, and don't master, ultimately masters you. And this is what we'll delve into next. Prepare to descend another level, for that is where authentic transformation begins. The greatest deception you've been fed is that you are in absolute control of your life. Wake up, because you're not. At least, not as long as you continue to live on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling without comprehending their origin, and making decisions you later sabotage. Carl Jung elucidated this when he stated, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And this is precisely what's happening to you now. The pain you feel, the anger that erupts unexpectedly, the sadness that envelops you without explanation. None of this is random. They are messages emanating from forgotten, ignored, or repressed parts of yourself. Jung referred to this hidden domain as the unconscious, and it's far more than a hazy collection of thoughts. It's an active force, an intricate system of memories, traumas, desires, and fears that you refuse to confront, yet which continue to dictate your emotions and actions. You wonder why certain words devastate you while other people remain unaffected. because those words strike sensitive, still active points within you. And they remain active precisely because you've never truly confronted them. You've merely swept them under your psychological rug, only to constantly trip over them. Jung declared, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." And what have you been doing? Judging yourself, repressing yourself, silencing yourself, as if that would solve anything. The truth is, the unconscious doesn't vanish just because you ignore it. It merely finds more dangerous avenues to manifest. In repetitive toxic relationships, in self-sabotaging patterns you can't break, in anxieties and fears that surface just when everything seems to be going well. This isn't bad luck. It's your unconscious striving to rouse you, but you persist in slumber. Do you wish to become someone who is no longer easily wounded? Then stop fleeing from what resides within you. Because as long as you remain unaware of your unconscious, you will be a mere puppet of your emotions. And the more you attempt to shield yourself from external pain, the more susceptible you become to internal turmoil. But there is a way out, and it's not through defense, it's through integration. Because becoming truly unassailable isn't an act of resistance, it's an act of profound self-knowledge. This is what we'll explore next. What does it truly mean to be unwavering, and why does this strength stem not from armor, but from acceptance? Let's continue. Most people mistakenly believe that the only way to avoid hurt is by shutting themselves off. They construct walls, craft masks, develop emotional armor, and feign indifference. They declare, "I don't care anymore," or "nothing affects me." Yet, internally, they continue to bleed, to corrode. The problem was never about feeling. The problem is not knowing what you're feeling and why. And this only afflicts those who haven't yet truly known themselves. Jung was precise when he stated, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when touching a human soul, be just another human soul." And that human soul, which you stubbornly conceal behind a strong, invulnerable, controlled persona, is crying out to be seen. Becoming emotionally strong has nothing to do with being cold, ignoring pain, avoiding conflict, or pretending not to care. It has everything to do with integrating, with accepting, with bringing into the light everything you've buried in the darkness. You don't become unassailable by erecting a barrier between yourself and the world. You become unassailable when you realize that no one can touch what has already been embraced within you. When you integrate your shadows, your fears, your flaws, your insecurities, you cease reacting to everything you encounter. You choose. You are no longer an emotional puppet, and that is true freedom. Jung termed this process individuation. The journey of becoming who you truly are. Not what others expect of you, not what you thought you needed to be to gain acceptance, but what emerges from within, from the convergence of light and shadow, between ego and unconscious. Jung emphasized, individuation is not a process of perfection, but of integration. You don't need to become a better person. You simply need to become whole. And here's the secret no one told you. The more you flee from pain, the more it pursues you. The more you try not to be affected, the more fragile you become. But when you face your own wounds, when you accept yourself with all that is beautiful and ugly, noble and shameful, nothing external possesses the power to dismantle you. However, this path demands courage. Courage to look inward, courage to shed your masks, courage to feel. Because it is precisely within pain that the key to transformation is hidden. And that's what we'll uncover in the next section. How suffering, far from being an enemy, can become the gateway to your authentic strength. Let's dive deeper, and this time, without fear. From an early age, you were taught to despise pain. You were told that suffering is a sign of weakness, that crying is futile, and that feeling too much makes you vulnerable. So, you began to flee, to avoid, to deny. But the more you run from suffering, the more relentlessly it pursues you. And the worst part, it changes form. It disguises itself as anxiety, anger, apathy, boredom, or self-destructive impulses you can't even comprehend. Ignored pain doesn't disappear. It merely digs tunnels within you until one day, without warning, everything collapses. Jung viewed suffering in a profoundly different light. He believed that pain was the messenger of the soul, the alarm of the unconscious, the language that the self, your complete being, uses to capture your attention. He famously said, Depression is like a lady in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her to sit down, offer her a coffee, and listen to what she has to say. But you don't listen. You silence yourself, distract yourself, keep busy, numb yourself. You do everything to avoid confronting what truly matters. What is this pain attempting to reveal to you? The truth is, suffering only hurts so intensely because you are still at war with yourself. A part of you yearns to grow, while another part strives to maintain the status quo. Something within you cries out for transformation. But your ego, accustomed to control, attempts to suffocate that call. And it is in this friction that pain is born, because change hurts, growth hurts. Letting go of old beliefs, severing toxic ties, allowing what no longer serves you to perish. All of this is a mourning, an internal process of death and rebirth. But it is precisely within this space of upheaval that something new can emerge. When everything within you is deconstructed, when certainties crumble, when pain lays bare your vulnerability, you can finally see who you truly are, stripped of protective layers, without the performance, without the mask. At that precise moment, suffering becomes sacred, for it brings you to your knees before the only entity that can set you free, yourself. Jung understood this. He recognized that suffering isn't a systemic failure. It's an intrinsic part of the process. Pain isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning of the journey towards individuation. The problem is that most people give up before traversing that dark valley. They flee, they distract themselves, they return to the surface. But not you. If you've come this far, it's because you are ready to cross. And in the next section, we'll understand how this crossing happens, how the path of individuation, no matter how solitary or brutal it may seem, is what ultimately liberates you. Let's continue. It's getting deeper now. Few people possess the courage to embark on the journey of individuation, and even fewer have the fortitude to complete it. This path offers no comfort, no guarantees, and no protection for your ego. It aims to dismantle it. Jung characterized individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are. But above all, this means unlearning who you may think you are. And that hurts more than any external rejection, because you begin to realize that much of what defined you until now was an illusion. You are not your achievements. You are not your traumas. You are not the image you constructed to be loved, respected, or admired. All of this was what you created to survive. But surviving is not living. And individuation is life's call beyond mere survival. It is when the unconscious begins to push everything that has been repressed, hidden, and distorted to the surface. Jung wrote, "Individuation requires the dissolution of the persona, for it is merely a mask of collective convenience." In essence, you will need to shed your own skin to discover what lies beneath. It is in this process that you begin to become unassailable, not because nothing affects you anymore, but because you have already passed through the fire. You have confronted your monsters. You have gazed into the eyes of your shame, your neediness, your anger, and declared, "I see you, and you no longer control me." This internal clarity, this lucidity in the face of your own darkness, grants you a strength that is independent of approval, recognition, or external control. You no longer need to be loved by everyone. You no longer need to win every argument. You no longer need to appear strong because you know who you are, and no one can take that away from you. True emotional armor isn't a shell, it's a core. It's the integration of all your parts into a center of consciousness that remains unshaken amidst storms. You may feel pain, but it does not shatter you. You may be hurt, but you do not lose yourself, because you have ceased being reactive and have become whole. You have stopped living on the surface and have begun to inhabit the depths. However, this depth comes at a price, solitude. Not because you will be alone, but because few people can accompany you on this journey. Most are still trapped on the surface, behind masks, in the fear of feeling. And as you begin to free yourself, you inevitably create distance. But this distancing isn't rejection, it's maturation. You don't distance yourself out of pride, you distance yourself because you no longer fit where you once hid. And this brings us to the final point of this journey. Consciousness as a shield. Because it's not strength that protects you, it's clarity. This is what we will discuss in the last part. Consciousness as the only state in which nothing, absolutely nothing, holds power over you. Let's finish this crossing together. We are almost there. Now that you've reached this point, something must be stated unequivocally. Nothing, absolutely nothing, will shield you from external suffering if you remain unconscious of what transpires within you. Words will continue to wound, rejections will continue to sting, and losses will continue to bring you down until you awaken. And awakening isn't a magical event, it's a daily choice. It's looking inward, even when it hurts. It's taking responsibility for everything you feel without blaming others, the past, or fate any longer. Carl Jung famously said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You have spent your entire life resisting the fear of not being enough, the emptiness of rejection, the pain of loneliness, the anguish of not feeling seen. And what did you do with that resistance? You hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control everything. You tried to be perfect. You tried to be strong. And all of this has led you here, exhausted, weary of fighting against the world and against yourself. But now you know, true emotional immunity isn't hardness, it's clarity. It's not about creating armor, it's about expanding your awareness. Because when you understand your triggers, your patterns, your wounds, the actions of others lose their power to destroy you. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you don't lose yourself. And that changes everything. What shields you isn't protecting yourself from life, it's diving into it deeply. Those who linger on the surface are buffeted by every wave. Those who dive know that silence, stability, and power reside in the depths. And that is where you're headed. When you begin to live from that place of integration, presence, and acceptance, the world may attempt to knock you down, but it will no longer find a vulnerable spot to strike. If this message resonated with you in some way, if something within you has stirred, write in the comments. I choose awareness. Let's initiate a movement of people who no longer wish to merely survive by feigning strength, but to live with truth. And remember, the next step is crucial. Real transformation truly begins when you don't stop at the first hurdle. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, please like this video and subscribe to stay updated. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Until next time, take care and be present.